Judica County is brought to you by Whitaker and Hamer, attorneys and counselors at law, your law firm for life.
Welcome back into Judica County Radio. Your host, Josh Whitaker and Joe Hamer, managing partners and practicing attorneys at Whitaker and Hamer Law Firm. And if you have a legal situation you're facing, we're going to give you an opportunity to get on the phone, get on the horn, and get answers to your questions. You can call 800-659-1186. That's 800-659-1186. Leave your contact information, briefly what the call is about, and an attorney with Whitaker and Hamer will be in touch. You can always email your questions to the show, info@judicacounty.com, and offices are conveniently located for you: Raleigh, Garner, Clayton, Goldsboro, Fuquay, Varina, Gastonia, and Moorhead City. I'm Morgan Patrick, consumer advocate, and we are in the middle of question and answer. And next up, guys, what are we going with?
Our next question is a question from a listener, and it's more of a fact pattern than a question, but it's kind of interesting. It kind of touches on estate planning and power of attorneys, but our fact pattern is our question asker is saying that his grandmother has been diagnosed with Alzheimer's.
I knew someone was either dying or going to be really sick, man. I could tell. You get this little smile when you get to talk about that, man.
All right, so his grandma is alive. She's with us. She's been diagnosed with Alzheimer's, and he's basically saying that a few years earlier, the grandma went and had an estate plan done with an attorney, and there was a power of attorney drafted, and his aunt has the power of attorney, right? So his aunt has a power of attorney. It can act for the grandma now that the grandma has Alzheimer's, and the aunt has cleaned out the grandma's checking account. There was 50 grand in there, 50-ish, and the aunt has purportedly used this power of attorney to write this check from the grandma's account to herself for the allegation is for her benefit. And the question is, can she do that? That's the first question. One, can she do that? And two, what can this person do about it? Does that make sense? Does that fact pattern make sense?
Yeah. So basically, in a nutshell, Granny gives Aunt POA.
Yep.
Aunt robs sweet Granny blind. What can be done?
Allegedly.
It's our fact pattern, right? She took the money.
Right.
Yeah. There's no allegedly.
So, let's put more facts to it. So basically, she was added to the bank account probably, right? She went into the bank and said, here's my power of attorney. Here's a letter from where the grandma signed to make the aunt her agent. That's how the statute reads now, but her attorney, in fact, her agent. So there's a power of attorney, and there's probably a letter from a doctor saying, poor Granny's in the advanced stages of Alzheimer's. She can no longer function, make her own decisions. And so she's got this power of attorney, and she's got this letter from the doctor, and she goes to the bank, and the bank is probably added her to the account as a POA, right, as an agent.
Yeah.
So she can write checks. And allegedly, we'll say she's written a check to herself just wiped her out. Wiped out grandma.
Gotcha.
And I guess the first question is, can she do that? And in theory,
it just depends, right?
It depends, because in North Carolina, if you're an agent, I think that the default is you can't write a check to yourself.
Yeah, in the absence of some specific nuanced language specifically stating that you can't just gift yourself property as someone's attorney, in fact.
Right. North Carolina, on the statutory short form power of attorney, there's all these powers you can initial to grant. One of those powers is making a gift, and then there's another blank that says the agent can basically make a gift to themselves. Right?
Now, if the aunt has a power of attorney that meets those requirements, then I think it's a steep uphill battle for you, Granny.
Right. Because she could technically do it now. That doesn't. So your agent, whoever you name, whether it's son, daughter, sibling, spouse, whoever you name as your agent, if they accept that role and they act as your agent, they have to be doing it for your benefit. This is what we call a fiduciary role, a fiduciary responsibility. So the aunt has a fiduciary responsibility to the grandma here. And even if the POA technically allows her to make a gift to herself to write this check, a bank's probably not going to like that, one. But number two, she can't be violating her fiduciary duty.
Yeah, and that's where you get into kind of a weird area, right? Because it's clearly stated that she has the authority to make a gift and to make a gift to herself. So you get into that area of argument, right? Like what level rises to a violation of that fiduciary duty?
Right. So if we're to believe this fact pattern, that was the grandma's life savings, right? That wiped the grandma out. Then obviously, I think that you would sue the aunt, right?
Yeah.
As a potential beneficiary of your grandma, you'd sue your aunt and say, hey, you're violating this fiduciary duty. You've left her penniless to benefit yourself. And, that's no good if that's what's happening.
Yeah, it's no good, man. Yeah, I don't know why I thought of this, but you're going to say no. The Saw movies, are you a big fan of those Saw movies? You familiar with them? You don't even know anything about them.
Joe, you're sick. You like those movies?
No, man, but I'm aware of them. I've seen them.
Well, I'm aware that they exist.
Yeah, you know what it is. It's
well,
like
obviously they're popular. How many have they made? Like 5?
10. They just did the 10th one. They just did the 10th one. Yeah, it was like a flashback. But anyways, the whole premise is like there's the guy, he punishes people for their misdeeds, right? He does like torture and things to them, but they can get out of it. And anyways, that's the type of thing that's probably happened in this scenario, man.
That's not good.
Keeping with the Halloween theme.
And it happens, money changes people, right? Anytime you get money involved, a lot of families that can kind of change relationships and how people act here. If we're going to believe our question asker, then aunt's done something wrong. And, it's not really, this is where I think a lot of people that I talk to who aren't attorneys get confused whether, this comes up as a criminal action or civil action. And so here, I don't necessarily think there's criminal activity, especially if the POA allows the aunt to do what she's doing. This would be a civil action, this breach of fiduciary duty. So the cops aren't going to do anything to your aunt. She didn't steal the money.
Yeah.
She had the authority to take it. She took it, but she did so to the detriment of grandma. So this is something that you would pursue in civil court. I think a lot of people who aren't in law enforcement and who aren't in the court system and who aren't attorneys, I think a lot of things seem like they might be criminal when in fact they're
civil.
Yeah, the cops, the sheriff, they're not going to really care. This isn't an actionable.
But the guy from Saw might care. The villain, Saw villain.
I've seen like I might have said this before, but a lot of movies that I haven't seen on Netflix, there used to be that 30-second bunny. What was that called? It was like a little 30-second cartoon, and they like did the whole movie with bunnies, cartoon bunnies.
Okay.
Yeah.
Saw a lot of movies that way.
Yeah. That's
so you got a general idea.
It's a way to ease into horror, the short bunny flicks. I get it.
Yeah, for sure, man.
It was called something like 30-second bunny theater or something like that, but they had a lot of that's how I know what happened in Brokeback Mountain.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure you weren't watching that on repeat.
And then a lot of these horror movies that I don't have the stomach for. But that was a pretty good legal question. That's a sad legal question, but that was a pretty good one as far as like having to delve into it and figure it out.
Some of the best ones are the saddest ones.
I was going to say, sadly, that probably happens more times than not.
Well, I've said it a lot of times, man. Your attorney, you're either meeting with us to plan. You're either meeting us to set up, a business plan or a estate plan. You're trying to do something to avoid problems, right? So you're meeting with us to plan and avoid issues or to make everything easier when there are problems like death and bankruptcy and things like that, or the problem's on your doorstep and you haven't planned and we're trying to fix it.
Trying to help you out. Yep.
Yeah. Because
one of those is way cooler than the other.
Yeah. Bad things are coming, right? That's the life we live in. Bad things are going to happen and you're either ready for them and you plan for them or you haven't. And, that's kind of where we kind of help on both sides of that equation, but definitely we'd rather plan with you than have to help you pick up the pieces after something's gone wrong.
Yeah. We'll do either or, but yeah, let's do the first one.
All right. Next mystery question. This is the one that's I would say it's kind of a personal injury negligence issue. And it's not one that I see a lot in my office, but we have somebody who was backing up in a parking lot. So they're in a parking lot. I'm going to make it a Walgreens.
Backing that thing up or like backing a vehicle up?
A vehicle.
Okay. I didn't know if it was the juvenile variety.
No.
If it was a bad mamma jam.
It was a wedding in like 2004.
Okay. Yeah.
They're at
God, those were the days, man.
They were in their car. They were backing up to leave a Walgreens at the same time. And they looked, right? They looked. And at the same time, somebody else is backing up from behind them. They don't see each other, and they basically like collide in the middle. They back up into each other, and they're trying to figure out who's liable.
I'm surprised with you, it wasn't like, and there was a grandmother.
She's dead. Way dead.
Crushed between the cars.
No, this is a simple parking lot accident, and these happen. And usually, people aren't getting hurt, right? You're not moving at a high rate of speed normally, so people aren't getting injured. That's usually when attorneys get involved, when there's personal injury involved. So you're looking at some property damage, probably not a lot of property damage. Both sides are going to blame the other side. We live in a contributory negligence state where if you're negligence at all, you can't recover. And usually the insurance companies just kind of handle these. I mean, you can try to argue this, but usually this is not one where your insurance company is gonna help you out. There's probably not enough damage to try to sue another person or get someone to recreate that, reconstruct the accident and get an expert witness. You're probably not doing all this stuff. Your insurance company is probably gonna just help you repair your damage and move it on down the road.
Guys, can I jump in and ask a question? Have you dealt with something like this before where it's happened in a parking lot, and how do the police handle that situation? Because they're usually called and they come in and they're in I guess it's a private parking lot and two cars have bumped each other like that.
Yeah, usually if the police get called to that, they're not always going to make a determination. They're not always going to ticket anybody, right? They're going to come see what happens. They'll draw up a report, but unless it's clear to that police officer, or they're not going to make a determination of whose fault it is. That's not really their job. If the law's been broken, they're going to failure to yield, right? Speeding, they'll do all that, but they're not going to arbitrate whose fault it was.
I like how you brought that back.
Arbitrate.
Yeah. That's skill.
So they're not typically going to get involved in that. They're just going to kind of report what happened, draw it up, and kind of basically say what happened. And it's kind of up to insurance companies and people to figure out what they're going to do. But a lot of times the insurance companies, that's something they're used to just dealing with. And there's a second question: does that make your insurance go up? But if you sue, if these two people got mad enough to sue each other, how are you going to figure out who's at fault? Right? They both didn't see the other person. As long as neither of them were doing anything illegal, it's just one of those things where maybe, two people are at fault, right? It's just one of those things. And we get that call every now and again. And again, attorneys usually only get involved when there's personal injury involved or damages are high enough to justify attorney's fees. But I think that one's just going to be one that you kind of just have to take a lump on. Is that a thing people say?
Yeah, they say that. You say it. You just brought it back. It's going to be the popular saying.
Take your lumps. 2024. Take your lumps and move on. And that's exactly what we're going to do on Judica County Radio. Josh Whitaker and Joe Hamer, managing partners and practicing attorneys here in North Carolina, and managing partners at Whitaker and Hamer Law Firm. And again, offices conveniently located Raleigh, Garner, Clayton, Goldsboro, Fuquay, Varina, Gastonia, and Morehead City. If you've got a legal situation and you need some answers to those questions that you have, you can always call the firm, 800-659-1186. Leave your contact information, briefly what the call is about, and an attorney will phone you back. Again, 800-659-1186. And you can always email your questions to this show, info@judicacounty.com, and we'll answer them on a future broadcast. We've got more question and answer coming up right after this.